Your brain never fully shuts off at night. While you sleep, it keeps working, processing the day, sorting through problems, connecting ideas you didn't even know were connected. Scientists have known this for decades. It's why you sometimes wake up with the answer to something that was bothering you the day before. It's why a good night of sleep before a big decision actually changes the decision you make. It's why creative people throughout history have kept notebooks by their beds, not to write before sleep, but because of what showed up after it. Your brain didn't rest through the night. It worked, quietly in the background, on whatever it was holding when you closed your eyes. Now here's the part nobody talks about. If your brain is going to work through the night anyway, and it is, every single night, whether you direct it or not, doesn't it matter what it works on? Most people never ask that question. They just sleep. And their brain, with no clear direction, no specific problem to hold, no open thread to follow, does what any system does when there's no input. It wanders. It processes random noise. It churns through anxiety and half-formed worries and things that don't go anywhere. And in the morning they wake up feeling like they slept, but not like they're ready. The 15 minutes of lying there before they can bring themselves to move. In the last video, we talked about stopping at the peak, ending your work session while you still have energy, so coming back tomorrow feels easy instead of heavy. And that works. But there's a problem a lot of people run into. You don't always catch the peak in time. Some days the work pulls you in, and before you know it, you've already pushed past it. Some days life interrupts, and the session ends without a clean stopping point at all. Some days you're just not sure where the peak even was. So what if you didn't have to rely on catching the peak every single time? What if there was a way to make the return effortless every morning? Not by how you ended yesterday's session, but by something you did before you went to sleep. It takes about 5 minutes, and once you understand why it works, you won't be able to imagine going to sleep without it. Let me walk you through a morning. Not a bad one. Just a completely normal morning that you have probably lived more times than you can count. The alarm goes off. You wake up. For a few seconds, everything is fine. Blank and still and fine. Then your brain starts searching. It's looking for something to orient around. Some direction, some first thing to move toward. And when it doesn't find anything clear, when there's no obvious pull, no specific target already waiting, it does what it always does in the absence of direction. It defaults to whatever is easiest. The phone is right there. The scroll starts. 5 minutes becomes 10. 10 becomes 20. You're not choosing this consciously. Your brain is just filling empty space with whatever requires the least effort to begin. And now the morning has a flavor. Reactive, scattered, already slightly behind. And you haven't done a single thing that matters to you yet. You've probably blamed yourself for this pattern. Told yourself you need more discipline, more willpower, a better system. Maybe you've tried waking up earlier. Maybe you've tried a no-phone rule for the first hour. Maybe you've tried writing a to-do list the night before and taping it to your mirror. And some of those things helped for a while. But the slow, foggy, resistant feeling kept coming back. Because none of those fixes addressed the actual problem. The actual problem is this. Your brain woke up with nothing specific to chase. A to-do list doesn't fix this. A to-do list is a menu. And a brain that wakes up foggy and unmotivated does not want to read a menu and make decisions. It wants to be pulled. It wants something already warm, already in motion, already halfway calling it forward. A list of 10 things does the opposite. It creates friction. It requires the brain to choose, prioritize, decide where to begin. On decision-making first thing in the morning, before you're fully awake, before the mental fog has cleared, that's exactly when most people give up and reach for the phone instead. The fix isn't a better list. The fix is an open loop, and the time to create that loop isn't in the morning, it's the night before. Thomas Edison kept a notebook by his bed. Every night before he went to sleep, he wrote down one problem he wanted to solve the next day. Not a list of tasks, not a schedule, not a summary of what he'd done. One specific problem. One open question his brain could hold on to through the night. People who worked alongside Edison described the same thing over and over. He would come in the next morning already moving. Already somewhere inside the problem before the workday had technically even started. Already talking through ideas, making connections, seeing angles that hadn't been visible the day before. It looked like genius. It looked like a kind of energy that other people simply didn't have access to. But that's not what it was. Edison understood something about the brain that most people in his time had no scientific language for. He just knew from experience that if he loaded the right question before sleep, the morning would come with answers already forming. He wasn't smarter. He wasn't working harder. He was working with his brain instead of against it. He was giving it instructions, and his brain, being a brain, followed them. Here's the science behind what he was doing. I know you love science, don't you? Your brain does not like unfinished things. Psychologists call this the Zeigarnik Effect. When a task is complete, your brain files it away, marks it done, releases it. But when something is unfinished, your brain keeps the file open, returns to it involuntarily, works on it even when you're focused on something else entirely. Every time he wrote a problem in that notebook before sleep, he was deliberately creating an open loop, handing his brain something unfinished to grip, something specific enough to work on. And while he slept, his brain did exactly what brains do with open loops. It held it, turned it over, processed it from angles his conscious mind hadn't reached yet. By morning, the loop was warmer than when he left it. The problem had moved, even while he was lying still. That feeling he woke up with every morning, that pull toward the work, that sense of already being in motion, that wasn't motivation. Motivation is unreliable. It shows up when it wants and disappears without warning. What Edison had was direction. And direction, unlike motivation, you can engineer deliberately every single night. Think about how most people end their days. They finish whatever they were doing and they close it down. Close the laptop, put the book on the nightstand, step away from the project, and mentally they close it too. The day is done. They're not thinking about work anymore. They watch something, talk to someone, scroll until they're tired, then sleep. Clean break. No loose ends left open on purpose. And the next morning the brain wakes up cold, empty. No direction, no pull, nothing specific to move toward. So it idles. And idling, as we already know, defaults to the phone. Now imagine a different version of the same evening. Same tiredness. Same end of day. But 5 minutes before fully closing down, you pick up a pen and write one sentence. Not a plan. Not a summary. Just the first specific move of the most important thing you want to work on tomorrow. Small enough to start immediately. Clear enough that your brain can picture it. You close the laptop, you go to sleep. And while you sleep, your brain holds that sentence. Not anxiously, not urgently. It just keeps the loop open the way it keeps every unfinished thing open. Turns it over gently through the night, thinks around the edges of it, gets familiar with it. And when your alarm goes off, there is something different about that morning. Not a surge of energy, not a dramatic shift, just a quiet pull, a lean toward the thing you wrote down, a sense of already knowing where to begin. That's not magic. That's just the Zeigarnik Effect doing exactly what it always does. Same creative project, 2 versions of the same evening. One person finishes their session and walks away without writing anything down. Figures they'll pick up where they left off. Morning comes. They sit down and stare at the work. Spend the first 10 or 15 minutes just trying to remember where they were. The blank space feels heavy. Getting back inside the work feels like pushing a door that won't open. So they check their phone first, just for a minute. The minute becomes 30. The session starts late and never fully gets going. The other person takes 60 seconds before closing down. Writes one sentence. Tomorrow I start with the part where she finds out the truth. That's it. Puts the pen down and goes about their evening. Wakes up the next morning and before they've even had coffee, that scene is already running in the back of their mind. They sit down and they're inside the work almost immediately. Not because they're more talented or more disciplined, because their brains spent the night getting ready. Same workout habit, 2 versions. One person thinks about the gym when they wake up, has to talk themselves into it every single morning, weighs the effort against the tiredness, makes a decision in real time, half asleep, while the bed is still warm. Sometimes they go, often they don't. And on the days they don't, there's a layer of guilt that makes the next day slightly harder. The other person wrote one sentence the night before. Tomorrow, I start with just 10 minutes on the treadmill. Nothing more. Wakes up and that 10 minutes is already there. Already waiting. Already so small there's no real argument against it. The decision was made the night before when their judgment was clear. The morning just executes. Same with studying. Same with building a business on the side. Same with any habit that requires you to show up consistently over a long period of time. The people who do it are not fundamentally different from the people who don't. They're not running on some superior fuel. They just stopped leaving their mornings empty. They started giving their brain an open loop to wake up to. And the open loop does the pulling that willpower never could. There is a deeper reason this works beyond just the Zeigarnik effect. When you wake up and the first move is already decided, you remove the thing that stops most people before they even begin: the decision. Decision-making is expensive. It costs mental energy. And in the morning, before your brain is fully running, before caffeine, before you've oriented yourself to the day, that cost is at its highest. The tiniest decision can feel like too much. Should I work on this or that first? Where do I even start? Is this the right thing to focus on today? Those questions feel small, but they're enough. They're enough friction to stop someone who hasn't built an unshakable habit yet. They're enough of a pause for the phone to fill the gap instead. When the first move is already written down, those questions disappear. There's no decision to make. There's just a move to execute. And executing a move you've already decided on is 10 times easier than deciding and executing at the same time. So here's exactly what this looks like in practice. Every night before you go to sleep, you write down one thing. Not your full to-do list for tomorrow. Not your goals. Not a reflection on how today went. Work on the project is not specific. Your brain can't grip that. It's too big, too vague, too easy to put off. Write the opening paragraph of section 3 as specific. Your brain knows exactly what that looks like. It can picture it. It can start working on it while you sleep. Exercise tomorrow is not specific. Go for a run is closer but still leaves decisions open. Run for 15 minutes the route around the block right after I make coffee. Now your brain has a complete picture. Nothing left to decide in the morning, just a sequence to follow. The more specific the sentence, the stronger the pull when you wake up. Vague instructions produce vague motivation. Specific instructions produce direction. And direction is what actually moves people. 3 things make this work. First, write it by hand if you can. Not in your phone, not in an app, not in a notes document, on paper. There's real research behind this. Writing by hand engages the brain differently than typing. It slows you down just enough to think clearly about what you're committing to. And something written on paper feels more real, more binding, more worth returning to than a note buried in your phone between your grocery list and a screenshot you forgot about. Second, make the first move small enough that it almost feels too easy. This is the part that most people get wrong when they first try this. They write down an ambitious first move. 2 hours of deep work. Finish the whole chapter, complete the entire workout. And in the morning, that ambitious move feels like a wall instead of a door. The whole point of the first move is to get you inside the work, not to complete it. Once you're inside, momentum takes over, but the entry point has to be small. Small enough that your half-asleep morning brain looks at it and thinks, I can do that right now, because it can, and it will. Third, after you write it down, let it go. Don't lie there going over it before you sleep. Don't try to plan the whole session in your head. You're not strategizing, you're planting. You've given your brain the open loop. Now trust it to do what it always does with open loops. Your job is done. Sleep. Tomorrow morning, before you reach for your phone, before the noise of the day rushes in, you will feel it. A quiet pull toward the thing you wrote. Not a dramatic surge of energy. Not a sudden burst of motivation that finally arrived after all this time. Just a direction. A first move that's already warm, already waiting, already smaller than any excuse you could make against it. That's the effortless return. Not just from yesterday's session, from every session. Built every night in 5 minutes with one sentence on a piece of paper by your bed. Edison didn't have a word for what he was doing. He just knew it worked. Now you know why it works, which means you can do it on purpose. Every night for the rest of your life. Not waiting for the days when motivation shows up. Not relying on willpower to push you through the resistance every morning. Just giving your brain one clear open loop before you close your eyes. The night does the work. The morning just follows. You don't need to be more disciplined. You don't need a perfect routine. You don't need to become a different kind of person. You just need one sentence. Tonight, write it down. Your brain already knows what to do next.